Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening.
China's a tremendous tariff maker, and India and Brazil and so many countries, and so we're not going to let that happen any longer.
US President Donald Trump blows hot and cold on India, threatens higher tariffs on countries like India, which he says are harming America. Trump also says that America has a good relationship with India after a phone call with Prime Minister Modi, who's likely to visit Washington in February.
We will import from wherever we can if the price is right.
Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri says that the Trump presidency is a plus from an India energy standpoint. Says India could look at importing a higher proportion of oil from the US or non-OPEC nations if the price is favorable. Tech stocks attempt to rebound on the Wall Street after a $1 trillion sell-off due to fears of competition from a Chinese AI startup, DeepSeek. President Trump calls it a wake-up call for American companies. Bajaj Auto largely meets estimates in Q3 with revenues rising nearly 6%. TVS Motors reports a 10% revenue growth. Both companies report a steady margin expansion. Cipla beats estimates in Q3 with a 49% jump in profits. Revenue rise 7% even as sales in the US declined marginally. Crisis hit aircraft manufacturer Boeing reports an annual loss of nearly $12 billion, its largest since 2020. New CEO says there are encouraging signs and remains upbeat on turning the company around. After 5 years, India and China agreed to restore direct flights, marking a diplomatic breakthrough in bilateral relations. Both nations also agreed to ease visa approvals, resume Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, among other measures, after Foreign Secretary Mishri's visit to Beijing. Income Tax Department conducts search operations at multiple locations related to Nirmal Jain's IFL Group. Sources say the searches are linked to allegations of tax evasion. OpenAI argues that Indian courts do not have the jurisdiction to hear the lawsuit from book publishers and news broadcasters over alleged copyright violations. The ChatGPT maker tells the Delhi High Court that cases, if any, need to be filed in California. Donations to the BJP shot up 87% to nearly 4,000 crore rupees in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections last year. Donations to the Congress quadrupled to more than 1,100 crore rupees, even as it remains a distant second to the BJP. 57% of donations to both parties came through now illegal electoral bonds route. A round trip from Chennai to Prayagraj later this week will cost you more than 1 lakh rupees. Airfares remain sky high despite the government's nudge as crores flock to the city for the Mahakumbh. Well, let's begin with a look at the day's market action. Now, it has been a volatile session on the Lal Street, even as global markets are attempting to recover from yesterday's sharp losses. The sensex and the Nifty managed to end in the green, but the mid-caps and the small caps remain under pressure. The sensex gained over 530 points. The Nifty, meanwhile, gained 120, moving closer to the 23,000 mark. Now, mid-cap index lost over 260 points, and the small-cap index lost nearly 300 points as the sell-off across the broader markets continue. Well, speaking of the markets, let's also take a look at the money markets. The Indian rupee weakened against the US dollar. The rupee remains just shy of its record low levels as US President Trump ramped up his tariff threat once again. 10-year government bonds prices remain largely steady after RBI announced liquidity boost last night to bridge the deficit. Now, tech stocks have attempted to rebound on Wall Street after a $1 trillion sell-off on Nasdaq futures edged higher as shares of Nvidia rose in pre-market trading. The tech stock lost $600 billion in market capitalization in the last trading session. The rout was triggered by fears of competition from AI startup DeepSeek. Now, speaking of the Chinese firm, OpenAI CEO and creator of ChatGPT, Sam Altman, has called the AI model impressive in a post on social media. Altman also praised the Chinese startup for its low-cost model, but maintained that OpenAI will deliver much better models soon. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has said that the developments of the Chinese in terms of this AI platform is a wake-up call for the US industry. Addressing a Republican gathering at Florida, Trump also said that the Chinese AI model is good for the industry as it shows that low-cost models are a possibility.
Today and over the last couple of days, I've been reading about China and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money. I view that as a positive. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that.
Well, back home, shares of Indian pharma companies dropped in early trade after US President Donald Trump threatened higher tariffs on countries like India, which he says are harming America. He was addressing a group of Republican lawmakers at his resort in Miami. Trump singled out China and Brazil along with India as high tariff countries. In his address, Trump also highlighted his plans to impose import hikes on foreign pharma companies, semiconductors and metals. However, he reiterated that companies which are looking to avoid these tariffs will have to move their operations to the US and begin production. This announcement comes days after Trump announced tariff threats on Canada, Mexico and China.
We're going to put tariffs on outside countries and outside people that really mean us harm. They want to, well, they mean us harm, but they basically want to make their country good. Look at what others do. China's a tremendous tariff maker, and India and Brazil and so many countries. And so we're not going to let that happen any longer, because we're going to put America first. Always put America first. That's what's going to happen.
Well, speaking of Donald Trump, Prime Minister Narendra Modi dialed the newly elected US president to congratulate him on his victory after the election results, making him the first leader from the Indo-Pacific region to do so. In what was deemed as a productive call by President Trump, he highlighted that Prime Minister Modi will do the right thing when it comes to illegal immigrants. In a statement issued by White House, President Trump also emphasized on the importance of India increasing its procurement of US-made security equipment and moving towards a fair bilateral trading relationship. Parikshit Luthra now joins us with more details. Parikshit, take us through what the two leaders spoke about.
Important developments there on the India-US partnership. Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump spoke over the phone, and Donald Trump confirmed that Prime Minister Modi will be visiting the United States in February. So clearly, Prime Minister Modi will be one of the first leaders to visit the White House after Trump 2.0 took over. At the same time, both leaders may also meet at the AI summit, which is being held in France at the invitation of President Macron. Both Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi are expected to be there. Now, what did both Trump and Modi discuss in that phone call last evening? Well, Donald Trump said that it was a productive phone call, and both leaders discussed priorities in Indo-Pacific, Middle East and Europe. He also said, Trump went on to say he has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, and Modi will do whatever he can to deal with the problem of illegal immigration in the United States. There are at least 18,000 Indians staying illegally in the US, and it is expected that India will take them back as and when they are deported. Now, the White House statement on the conversation is very important in two ways. One, the president emphasized the importance of India increasing its procurement of American-made security equipment, and also India-US must work towards a fair bilateral trading relationship. So here you have Donald Trump in his second term conveying very clearly to the Indian Prime Minister that he wants a fair trade partnership. He wants the trade surplus that India enjoys right now to be reduced, and India must buy more American products. Now, when it comes to the Indian side of things and what Prime Minister Modi conveyed and how the MEA sees these talks, the government said that both leaders reaffirmed their commitment to work towards a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership. They discussed measures for strengthening cooperation in technology, trade, investment, energy and defense. They exchanged views on global issues, including West Asia and Ukraine, and both leaders agreed to meet soon. So the dates are being worked out, but this visit of Prime Minister Modi to US is happening in the month of February, within a few weeks.
Right, Parikshit, thanks so much for that. Now, oil prices rose marginally today but remained near two-week lows. This as weak economic data from China added to demand concerns. Back home, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that the Trump presidency is a plus from an India energy standpoint. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Puri also said that India could look at importing a higher proportion of oil from the US or non-OPEC nations if the price is right to mitigate the impact of Russia sanctions.
The outgoing administration put in place some additional sanctions on two entities, as far as I remember, and some shipping fleet. But even if you look at the language of the incoming energy secretary, it is couched in terms of wanting to use this as leverage to resolve a problem. The direction is very clear. The direction is international prices at the bunk should come down. Yeah. People should benefit, economies should benefit, we should get on to other forms of economic activity. I don't want to comment on the rest, but on the energy front, to me, this is a plus. Can I import, I meaning India, import from the United States more? My answer would be an unambiguous yes. But again, all our imports are based on some fundamental, self-evident truths. We will import from wherever we can if the price is right.
Now, Norway is set to become the first country in the world completely transition to electric mobility. The country has effectively erased gasoline and diesel cars from its market, and all new cars that will be sold will be electric. Norway's EV sales have increased from less than 1% of total auto sales in 2010 to a whopping 89% in 2024. And on to the big earnings now of the day. Bajaj Auto's third quarter performance largely met expectations. Profits were in line with estimates, rising 3.3% year-on-year. The auto major attributed the 6% rise in revenue to strong exports and a buoyant domestic green energy portfolio. Meanwhile, margins were higher than expectations, coming in at 20.2%. And while staying with the earnings corner, TVS Motors reported a steady set of numbers in the third quarter, led by volume growth. Numbers were also largely in line with the street's expectations. The profits rose 4%, while revenues jumped 10% on an annual basis. However, the auto company's three-wheeler sales were down 24% on a YOY basis. And Cipla, meanwhile, beat the street's expectations on all parameters in the third quarter. Its net profit rose by nearly 50% on a yearly basis to 1,570 crore rupees in the October to December quarter. Its revenue grew by single digits to more than 7,000 crore rupees. Meanwhile, EBITDA margins stood at 28%. Now, in international earnings, Boeing has reported a loss of nearly $4 billion for the fourth quarter. The company also reported an annual yearly loss of nearly $12 billion, making this the company's sixth consecutive annual loss. The CEO, Kelly Orthberg, said that Boeing will continue to make investments in the core businesses and streamline its portfolio. Now, Reliance Industries chairperson Mukesh Ambani has said that no power can stop India's growth trajectory. Ambani was addressing students at the convocation ceremony of Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University. He is the president of this university and the chairman of the board of governors. Ambani also reminded the major economies that they had a responsibility to ensure that economic growth did not worsen climate crisis. That's not all. He also shared 5 life principles for students to excel in their lives.
Within a couple of years, India will emerge as the third largest economy in the world. No power on earth can stop India's growth trajectory. I can clearly foresee that India will become the most prosperous nation in the world before the end of this century. But India, with other large economies, also has a big responsibility. We must not allow economic growth endanger planet Earth and further worsen the climate crisis. Therefore, the transition from fossil fuels to clean and green energy has to be accelerated. All of you are benefiting from what Narendra Bhai thought in the early 2000s. And when he called me and said in 2005 that we have to build one of the finest institutions in Gujarat, right? And that is what we have achieved from 2007 onwards. So we will always be grateful to our Prime Minister. Long before he became Prime Minister, he foresaw that India needed Atmanirbharta in energy. Over 20 years ago, he told me he wanted Gujarat to lead the nation in energy and energy products. He also told me that Gujarat should take the lead in cultivating world-class human resources needed to achieve India's clean energy ambition. As you chart your path forward, allow me to suggest 5 guiding principles that have helped me. 1, discover your true passion. Find what ignites your soul. When you dedicate your energy to something you love, work becomes joy and challenge becomes opportunities for growth. 2, commit to lifelong learning. In this age of rapid technological advancement, the willingness to learn continuously is not an option. 3, inculcate the virtue of sharing. Know that knowledge grows when it is shared. By helping others rise, you elevate yourself and build a community of mutual growth and progress. 4, invest in meaningful relationships. Genuine connections, what I call dil ke rishte, are the foundation of both personal and professional success. And 5, cherish and nurture your family bonds.
And in court corner, OpenAI has argued in the Delhi High Court that Indian courts do not have the jurisdiction to hear news broadcasters' plea over alleged copyright violations. The ChatGPT maker said that the cases needed to be filed in California as the AI models were being trained overseas. The Gen AI firm also urged the High Court to quash these petitions. And the Income Tax Department has conducted search operations at the office of IFL Group. Sources said that these searches are linked to allegations of tax evasion. The raids reportedly began today and were being done across several floors of 361 in Mumbai, formerly known as IIFL Wealth. However, IFL Group has not issued an official statement so far. Furthermore, IFL Capital has rescheduled its board meeting to consider third quarter results due to certain exigencies. Now, market regulator Sebi has rejected the approach from US investor Digvijay Gaikwad, hoping to acquire Religare Enterprises. In a letter to Sebi, Gaikwad had sought permission to make an offer countering the one made by Berman's family to buy a controlling stake in Religare. The company informed the stock exchanges of this development. Sebi has said that Gaikwad's letter proposing for a counter bid to Berman's open offer was not in the prescribed application format. And coming up on India Business Hour, a round trip from Chennai to Prayagraj later this week will cost you more than 1 lakh rupees. More details in some time. And you can also catch all CNBC-TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Now, voluntary donations to the BJP surged by 87% on a yearly basis in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections last year. As per an audit report by the Election Commission, the party received over 3,960 crore rupees in donations and nearly 1,700 crore rupees in the form of electoral bonds. The party's largest source of income was electoral bonds, even as its share in the total contributions declined. Now, donations to the Congress quadrupled to 1,130 crore rupees. The party received 828 crore rupees in electoral bonds, which accounted for 73% of its total contributions. Now, India and China have agreed to restore direct flights after 5 years. This marks a diplomatic breakthrough in bilateral relations. Both nations also agreed to ease visa approvals and resume the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, among other measures. The decision comes after Foreign Secretary Mishri's visit to Beijing. Now, at least 5 people have been killed and 50 others injured after a watchtower in Uttar Pradesh's Bagpat collapsed at a religious event. Officials have said that 20 people are currently undergoing treatment. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has expressed anguish over the incident and directed officials to speed up relief work. A 4-story building has collapsed in Delhi's Barari area, leaving at least 2 people dead and several others injured. Police officials have said that it was a newly constructed building and 12 people have been rescued so far. Officials also confirmed that rescue operations are still ongoing and more people are feared trapped under the debris. Now, auto rickshaw drivers have been a core voter base for the Aam Aadmi Party since its inception in 2013 and then 2015. They played a key role in the party's election campaign in Delhi, and their vehicles carried the party's posters. In the 2020 Assembly elections too, their support continued as a part of our ongoing series, Election Exchange. CNBC-TV18's Kiran Khatri finds out how the mood is among this community of 1.5 lakh auto drivers ahead of the elections on February 5th.
दिल्ली के ऑटो वालों के साथ मेरा बहुत पुराना रिश्ता है और आज मैं कह सकता हूं कि मैंने ऑटो वालों का नमक खाया है। तो इस नमक का कर्ज उतारना मेरा फर्ज है।
This was the Aam Aadmi Party chief's latest pitch to the auto rickshaw drivers who helped him come to power for the first time in Delhi in 2013. Kejriwal and his wife visited an auto rickshaw driver's home for lunch, reiterating their commitment to the community ahead of Delhi's polls. But the auto drivers we spoke to say their woes have been piling up over the past decade, and today they are divided in their political leanings.
पानी फ्री, बस फ्री, बस इसके सिवा कुछ नहीं है। रोड भी नहीं, पहले सफाई रहती थी, जैसे अभी गंदगी है, पहले ऐसे गंदगी नहीं रहती थी जैसे अभी है।
और मैं 9 रुपये यूनिट लाइट देता हूँ, ठीक है, मकान मालिक को 200 रुपये पानी का देता हूँ। अगर आप बिजली पानी फ्री कर रहे हो तो उनके लिए कीजिए जो गरीब है, जिनको हक मिलना चाहिए, ठीक है ना, उनके लिए नहीं जो मकान मालिक हैं।
The auto drivers complain that the cost of living in the national capital has gone up while incomes have dwindled, especially due to competition from e-rickshaws and bike taxis. Their demands from the new government include subsidies to purchase new CNG vehicles and dedicated auto stands.
दुनिया भर के आपने रिक्शे चलवा दिए दिल्ली के अंदर, कोई लिमिट नहीं है रिक्शों की, जितने मर्जी रजिस्ट्रेट करते जाओ, चलाते जाओ, जहाँ मर्जी चलाओ पूरी दिल्ली के अंदर। जब हमारे लिए संख्या तय हो गई है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह कहा दिल्ली के अंदर 1 लाख से ज़्यादा ऑटो नहीं होंगे, इनकी क्यों नहीं केजरीवाल सरकार लिमिट बांधती?
शाम को 300 रुपये देना पड़ेगा गाड़ी का किराया, फिर गाड़ी का CNG भी उस समय 43 रुपये था 2016 में, 43 रुपये 50 पैसे, अब हो गया 46 रुपये 9 पैसे। कितना के ज़मीन आसमान की फ़र्क है, इतना महंगाई बढ़ गया और हमारी कमाई उतना ही की उतना ही रह गई है।
जब सरकार थी कांग्रेस की तो मेरा चालान 500 रुपये में हो जाता था वर्दी में, अब बट मेरे पास अभी एक चालान हुआ है, ये केजरीवाल की सरकार में ही है, 15,000 रुपये का है बिगर वर्दी का। अब उसको बताइए मैं मैडम कहाँ भरूँ? ऑटो वाले इतने बड़े करोड़पति हैं जो 15,000 रुपये का चालान भरेंगे।
बहुत कुछ बोला तो था, पार्किंग की सुविधा दूंगा, हर जगह जो है ऑटो स्टैंड बनाऊंगा, एक आज तक एक स्टैंड नहीं है।
While some auto drivers have joined the AAP, the auto rickshaw unions are seen as a crucial vote bank, and every party in the three-cornered race is keen on winning these drivers over. Kejriwal announced 5 guarantees including life insurance of up to 10 lakh rupees, accident insurance of up to 5 lakh rupees and financial assistance of 1 lakh rupees for the daughter's wedding. Meanwhile, the BJP has proposed the formation of an auto taxi driver welfare board which will provide members with a 10 lakh rupee life insurance cover and a 5 lakh rupee accident cover.
Team Kejriwal is confident this group of Aam Aadmis will support their party in securing another term, but BJP is hoping anti-incumbency and its promises to these men in brown will work to fulfill its vision of a double-engine government. At the moment, the auto driver community itself is divided, with drivers we spoke to saying their vote will go to the party that they believe will work for their benefit. In New Delhi, Kiran Khatri.
Now, a round trip from Chennai to Prayagraj later this week will cost you more than 1 lakh crore rupees. The airfares continue to be sky high despite the government's nudge as crores flock to the city for the Mahakumbh. Madhya Mujawar joins us now with more details. Madhya.
Well, the Ministry of Civil Aviation had urged airlines to launch more flights to Prayagraj and rationalize airfares. Airlines like Akasa and SpiceJet also announced new flights to the holy city. But despite that, airfares for flights to Prayagraj from any city in India have seen a dramatic surge. A round trip from Mumbai to Prayagraj scheduled between January 30th and February 4th can cost up to 60,000 rupees, which is significantly higher than usual. The same is true for flights departing from Delhi. The situation is even worse for travellers from Chennai, where return fares can reach as high as 1 lakh rupees. Now, we have gathered these rates from travel booking sites and they could change depending on the demand. Just to give you a sense of how steep these rates are, just the return fare or even a little more could fund a short all-inclusive trip in a 3-star hotel to popular international destinations like Vietnam, Bangkok or Malaysia. Now, the spiritual significance of the Mahakumbh is immense and unparalleled, but what we are highlighting is the financial burden on pilgrims. While the increase in flight numbers may have improved availability, the reality is that demand remains high, and that's why airfares have not budged. And the surge in travel costs doesn't end with airfares. Accommodations in Prayagraj, particularly in 3 to 4-star hotels, has also seen a dramatic increase. For those looking to stay in comfort, room rates can go as high as 70,000 rupees per night during the peak Kumbh Mela period. So the rising travel and accommodation cost may be excluding several devotees who cannot afford the expenses of taking part in this religious experience.
Right, Madhya, thanks so much for that. But that's all the time that we have. It's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.